What's up, cats? Hope all is going well. It is November 7th, 2025. It's Friday. It's about 4 p.m. Looks like the market's going to be closing very soon. I'm recording this pretty late, but yeah, I wanted to get a video before the weekend, so here we go. First of all, if you are liking these videos, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'd love to know that you're there. And if you'd like to drop us a comment down below, please do so. You got any questions? Yeah, let's go into it. Okay, so last we left off, we were over in this section. Yo, what is this color? Okay, there you go. Let me erase that. I'm not quite set up, obviously. So we were over in this section right here, and we were looking at possibly getting some kind of bounce in this section. Oh my goodness, look at this. Wait, let me stop what I'm doing here. Let me go over to the 12-hour chart because that's where we should be. Okay, let's do this. There we go. There we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, so anyway, so we were over in this section right over here, and I was hoping that we would grab some kind of bounce on this yellow line right over here. But I also mentioned that this was the section that I was looking for to possibly add on to my long, right? I was looking at this section right here, and if you look back at the video that I made yesterday, you can see I mentioned that. Now, I was hoping that it would grab onto this spot here and continue up, but I was also prepared for it to come down here because this is where I would love to DCA in. And yeah, in the nighttime, it looks like what it did was it worked its way back down. And I'd like to go closer in now and take a look at these candles, right? Because this is my long that I'm currently in right over here. And these were the candles that I was looking at possibly taking out, right? I mentioned before that the wick, it needs to be filled out, but it doesn't have to be filled out right away because of kind of the scenario that was there. And we looked into a tighter timeline to see. But Bitcoin decided to fill in these candles anyway. So that's what we're going off of here. If you see this right here, like this is if I were to take this wick and kind of like stretch it out, you could see we've basically filled this wick in, both wicks. This is good enough. Now, the cool thing about the move that's happening today is if you notice, we now have a shift in character right here. This is our shift in character. Okay, because this is a lower high. And this now is a higher, a lower. Oh my goodness. Let me just mark it out, huh? So if you notice, we are now a little bit higher than the previous candle. So we've got a lower low and then we've got a lower high. There we go. Now that makes sense, right? So this is our first lower high that we've got. This is a little bit of a change of character. So that's a big deal. You notice, like if I pull this candle out over here, these are the wicks that are kind of grouped together. So if I go and look at the 12-hour time frame now, and you take a look, you can see it a little bit better that we're grabbing strength in this area. So we now have retested this area right over here. We've retested this area, and we've knocked out these wicks here with these candles, and they're filled out. So now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for it to move up. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky. First of all, there are zones. Excuse me. There are zones that we need to hit. Okay, and it's kind of like being in an elevator and going to the 10th floor. You have to hit floor 1, 2, 3 first. You can't just jump from floor 1 to floor 5, right? Unless there's like a specific gap that's in there, which is a good analogy, I guess, because there are fair value gaps there. So here's what I want to explain. First of all, I mentioned this trend line that we've got going on here, right? And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a third touch. That's what I'm looking for because we've got a touch over here and we've got a touch over here. So I'm looking for it to come up and touch this line one more time. And when it does, like I said, I am looking for it to kind of like bounce off of it first and then break out. I'm not looking for it to break out first and foremost. If it does, hey, let's go, right? But that's usually not the way the chart moves, especially when there's a trend line that's there. You usually have 3 touch points, 1, 2, 3. Then it comes back, it breaks, and then it comes and retests for one more touch, and then we continue in that direction, right? So that's usually how a trend line works in those characteristics. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for it to touch this line right over here. But here's the deal, right? This chart now tells this crazy story. So let's go for it. So first of all, someone bought over here. So I'm just going to put a dollar sign right here for you, okay? So once they bought, the chart dropped, and they are now underwater, okay? So they're underwater. And then they thought, hey, you know what? We're about to break back over there. So they bought again. And now they are underwater one more time. So these become hot spots in the chart to come back and revisit. Because even though they left money on the chart here, if they can get, and I'm talking figuratively, right? If they can get the chart to come back up over here, then they can take their money at break even on this part, okay? And if the chart comes down over here and makes its way back over there, they can take their position break even. And then, you know, this will go down and then it'll work its way back up. So that's how I see these areas, okay? We've got pockets of liquidity that is starting to form on this trend line. And every time there's a sharp move down, then somebody is left behind. But these charts don't need to stay here, right? So if this guy wanted to get his money, well, he probably bought down here. So now he's actually making profit with this particular bag, right? And when he comes over here, not only would he have made profit from the one below, but he can now take this money as a break even. And he can, you know, continue from there. So what we have in the Bitcoin chart is we actually have quite a bit of liquidity that's built up on this line, because these moves were really, really sharp. Each one of them was sharp, right? So there was a lot of down pressure on there. So if we do come over here and get to this line, then first we're going to take this guy out over here. Then we're going to try to take this guy out over here. And then we move up to our next level, right? So that's how that's how I'm seeing the chart right now. Because we are at the bottom of the range and we're starting to get some strength over here, if we can get a bounce around here to build a little bit more support, then this line can be tested and we can kind of work our way up, right? And again, these being the targets. So, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this chart to really show signs of strength. Now, this is a big target right here because this was such a sharp move down. So if we continue up and we work over, this is going to be our first line of resistance. But notice what's going on there. There's the trend line. So it all kind of lines up with each other, which is really super cool. Like this is what I was talking about, the stories being told, right? So yeah, so that's that. That's what I'm looking for. Now, remember the weekend, guys. The weekend usually volume kicks off. So if we get over here somewhere, we spike up, maybe it'll roll down a little bit and then it'll work its way back up on Sunday. I'm not really sure. I don't play the weekends. But I will say this, that I did end up, you know, following through with my plan. What I was hoping for was I was hoping for Bitcoin to come actually a little bit lower into this section so I can DCA into it. But I didn't on this one. I actually DCA'd in over on Ethereum. And Ethereum, I kind of worked the chart a bit. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I got something going on over there. So now Ethereum has a little bit more of my focus. Because first, I got into this zone here, and I've taken profit along the way, right? And I believe I've taken 4 profits. So basically, at this point in the chart, I only had like, you know, a shilling, right? So the majority of my entry was taken. And I was hoping to, you know, rinse and repeat. And that's exactly what I did. I took all of the profit and I actually threw it back in at, you know, down here at this line. And what it did was it shifted my entry from here. It shifted it right up here. So that's what this is. That is what this is demonstrating. This was my first entry. And then this is my DCA entry right here. So you can see how it moved up. At this point, I have now taken profit a few more times. So this is how you really want to play these zones. If you find that there is strength being done there, like, you know, there's no reason why you can't take some profit and then throw it back in and rinse and repeat your way up. It's basically tapping the zone quite a few times, right? So the first time that I took profit on this, I actually made, because I was running on 10x leverage, I pulled my profit at 120%. And now I am up, I believe, close to 70% again. So I basically ran that almost 200% on this one section, right? Combined with everything there. So I'm compounding my gains. Now, what I did was to actually get into this position, and I decided to do this on Ethereum instead of Bitcoin, is because I was using Bitcoin as a gauge. I was seeing how much strength it really was having. So I was looking at Bitcoin and seeing where the struggle, like where it was having a struggle, right? And I was going back and forth to the Bitcoin dominance chart to see, does Bitcoin really have the strength, or are we looking at Ethereum having the strength? And Ethereum, as you could see, what I was talking about before was I was talking about hitting the back of this zone here for Ethereum to start, you know, grabbing some strength. So this was my signal to, you know, jump back into Ethereum. That was my signal for Ethereum, right? Going back to this Bitcoin, to the dominance chart. So as you can see, here's the Bitcoin dominance, and we are still in that channel that we were in, but now we're starting to get to this, are we going to break this? And of course, this is a trend line, and we've taken, this trend line has many hits now, right? 1, 2, 3, break. Did you see that? 1, 2, and now we're on 3. So could we possibly break and start to come lower? I hope so. The reason why is because it'll give Ethereum some time to kind of like run and possibly recover some of these altcoins. While Bitcoin the dominance is kicking down, of course, Ethereum dominance is kicking up. And Ethereum dominance is taking a pretty hard hit. If you look, this is a pretty solid downtrend. Right, let me get rid of this right here. So we have this trend to kind of break. And at this point, I do feel like this is a form of manipulation, right? So we'll see if we get some strength and kind of break out of here. But if we break out of here, this is the target for Ethereum dominance. And hopefully that'll give us a nice little run on Ethereum since it's been feeling so weak lately, right? So now that we are coming back into, like we've got this is the range now, okay? This is the range right up here. If you notice, the chart is really imbalanced. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for it to really kind of like run its game over here. There are so many liquidity pockets that are in here that it could really kind of tap. Plus, we still have this one that's just been hanging out for quite some time. So, yeah, so that's what I'm looking for on Ethereum. Now, there's one other thing that I would like to mention as far as trading goes. This is really important. Look, it doesn't matter if you have a good entry. Like, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't really matter. That is not the whole trade. If you are trading these charts, it's not about getting into the best position possible. It's actually about getting into a position and managing your trade. And that's super important. And managing your trade is also having realistic expectations as to when you should take profit and when you shouldn't take profit. If I were to not take any profit on this and this would have come over here and stopped me out, well, this was a waste of time, right? I mean, it was a swing, you know, going into it. Maybe I shouldn't say a waste of time, but if I didn't take any profit, then I just lost out on an opportunity. And you can take profit. There's nothing wrong with that because these charts always revisit itself. So your expectation needs to be checked. If you want to be, you know, successful in this trading space, it's not about who you're up against. It's not about all these P&Ls, these fake P&Ls, these, you know, these people that you idolize or anything like that. This is you versus you. So it's important that if you are trading this, that you keep your expectations realistic. So I don't really get into these positions and think that I'm going to hold it up here. That's not what I think. What I hope for is that we end up coming up here, but this is an unrealistic expectation on how the chart works. This is just kind of like some fruition of the way our brain might think going up does. The chart actually moves like this, which gives you multiple opportunities to get in. And usually when it gets to a point of resistance, even the slightest, it gives you another opportunity to get in and kind of like compound your gains, right? So I don't look to hold this until 150,000. I actually try to hold it as long as I can without the charts having to retrace and me losing out on profit. So if you want to be profitable, not only is it about your entry, right? But it's also about your take profits. It's also about your risk management, right? And it's also about your position size. If you get great entries, but you never take profit and you lose that profit because it went the opposite way, well, then you can kind of like mark that off, right? And you're struggling on that side. That's something that you need to work on. If you end up getting into a great entry, but you have no risk management, then again, you're not complete here. Also, if you overposition your size for the trade, then it's not going to work. You need all four of these. You know, there might be more, but these are the things that I focus on to become a really successful trader in this space. It's not just about entry. It's not about your P&L. It's nothing like that. It's about your growth and being disciplined with yourself. So when you're trading these and when you're watching, you know, these videos, what I'm giving you an insight to is my plan. I am giving you an insight to my plan all the time. And every single one of my plans, I jump into. I haven't given any signals in here, not signals, but I haven't given any trade ideas that I haven't followed through with. And that's on purpose because I don't want anyone to be misled into getting trapped in something that I wouldn't do. Oh, you should have known. You should have known. No, these are my plans. I'm sharing them with you. And what I would love for you guys to do is to go back and look at how the plan worked out, first of all, and also how you would have absorbed that and what you would have done, to move forward with it. If every time you stand at a train station, you say the train's going to be here at 8 o'clock, that's great. The train comes at 8 o'clock and it goes by. Well, if you don't get on the train, you went nowhere. Like clap, clap, you figured out that it comes at 8 o'clock. But really, these charts give you an opportunity to learn a lesson, see where the train is going, see how to handle yourself in the new location. And that's your responsibility. That's something that you need to grow on, not something that you need to show off to somebody else, but it's just something that you need to work on to become, profitable in this space, taking advantage of the opportunities and keeping your expectations realistic while being very disciplined. So while I am showing you all of this, this is basically like my trading journal that I'm sharing with all of you. And I have no real expectations. I'm not right all the time, but I do take my chances because I plan way in advance. Now, the other thing that I said was, if you felt like you missed this move, it was going to come back. I mentioned that, and it did. It came back to this area. What you decided to do at that point is up to you. But I hope that you're starting to see how the chart moves and how you can really kind of exploit some of these things, when the moment is right. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm not going to be trading on the weekend. I've got 2 longs that are running right now, and I will manage those trades. I've got my stop losses in, my take profits. So whatever happens this weekend happens. I will reconvene with all of you on Monday, and hopefully you have a good, safe weekend. And, feel free to hit like and subscribe or drop us a comment. All right, guys, be good. Talk to you soon. Bye.